So once you have orientated a little bit with using these different layers here, you can then just save again the project. You can just press Ctrl S, or on a German keyboard you would just put strgs, and that will save your project again. So now it's saved and we have here our two layers. Now you remember we are looking here for the city of Esslingen am Neckar before. So these were its coordinates. And now we want to find that here on our map. So just to zoom out a little bit, if you have a look here at the map of Germany, so we're in the south of Germany. Here's Munich, here is Mannheim, and there's Karlsruhe, and here in the middle is Stuttgart. You will find here the neighboring France, and here as an orientation mark you see the Alps and Lake Constance. So we want to move here towards Stuttgart, and then a little bit down here you'll find Esslingen. Just to verify here what is here, you can just see here what are the coordinates. You can also get more information about what the layer actually stores. So just click here on that little information mark here, and then you will see here that identify results section. So there is not much provided in here because we're just in these OpenStreetMap layer. For this exercise, we want to go a little bit upstream in the Neckar. So we want to find here a gauging station that is here at an affluent. So we're going to go a little bit upstream. Here's the confluence between the Neckar and the Filz. And if you go a little bit more upstream, here at that highway intersection, you're going to find the Pegelhaus. So that's a little bit hard to find here. And what we're going to do here to mark our Pegelhaus, we're going to create a shapefile and we're going to mark the Pegelhaus with a point. So to do that, we go here to layer. We will create a layer. We're going to create a new shapefile layer. Then we want to give it a file name. Pay attention to give it a file name. Go here on the browse button. Then here you will normally automatically end up here in the QGIS exercise. And we can name that here now, for example, gauge, or also gauges if you want to add others later on. Just pay attention that the shapefile name at the end should not have more than 13 characters. So that is now here automatically added. That is the path or the directory to your shapefile. So that is why you want to click here on the button and not just write gauges.shp, because it will not know where the file will live afterwards. As a geometry type here, we want to create a multi-point shapefile to have the possibility to add other shapefiles later on. We can also choose here to add additional dimensions, so to add a z-value in the case we have a digital elevation model available at some point later. Then we also want to add new fields. As a standard here you will have an ID, and what we also want to have here in that case is a station name. So let's just call it STN name. I'm using here that abbreviation because, again, that may not be too long. So that is going to be text data, so we're fine with that, and I can just click here on add fields to list, and now the station name is added to the list. Then every station or gauge at the river has a unique ID normally, so that you can identify it maybe online. So what we're going to add here is our station ID, which is then an integer number. So we're going to call that here STM ID. And an integer number is a whole number here for QGIS that we're going to select here. Just note you can also add decimal numbers or dates. Good. Then let's just add here add fields to list, and we can create the shapefile. So now gauges here is added to the project. Don't forget to save your project regularly, and let's also double check if the shapefile was correctly created. So I created my shapefile here in QGIS exercise, and we see here gauges.shp. When you create a shapefile, you will also see that there are a couple of other files created along with it. So for example, you will have here the .prg file that contains actually just information about the projection. So if you open that with a text editor, you're going to see the projection or the WKT information, well-known text information that is about your shapefile. You will also have here database entries that is then actually containing your attribute table. I will come back to the attribute table later on, but already note that the attribute table is actually what is defined with the field names. So now we can draw a point here at the Pegelhaus. Before we set here the point, you may want to have a look at the Pegelhaus itself. So let's visit its website. So the website is here. It's the Pegel ID, the gauge ID 0025. Yeah, I marked that before I was recording the video, so you might just need to type that manually. So I just keep that open for a couple of more seconds. It's a governmental or public gauging station, so you can access its information and see a little bit more about what's happening over there. So you can see here that the current discharge here is 8.25 cubic meters per second, and the current water depth is 66 centimeters. But what is of interest now for us here for creating the shapefile is the station ID. Good, let's get back to QGIS. So to add now a point here, we need to enable editing for the shapefile. So that can be done here by clicking on that little pencil. Now we can draw here, and we can select several actions. We want to add a point feature. So we just click here, and now we can click here directly on the Pegelhaus. It will then directly ask us here what we want to have as an ID. That we can leave free, but the station name here, we can call it Plochingen Filz, and add here our station ID 00025 that we've seen before. So now we have drawn our point, but it is not yet saved to the shapefile. So to have that here in the shapefile, we need to click here on that little Save Layer Edits button, because that is what will save our edits to the shapefile. Good. Just note that this is different from our project. So if you have a look at your folder and you see when these files were created or modified, you're going to see that the QGIS project itself is a different instance than the shapefile itself. So the shapefile must be saved separately. So now we can leave here the editing mode, and we can and our shapefile is saved. So here, that little green point is what we've just drawn, which is not very visible. Let's change that visibility a little bit. We can do that here by going to gauges and properties, or you just double click on gauges. Then you will automatically end up here on the symbology. You can use a single symbol or whatever you want. Now here we just stick with a single symbol. We don't have a lot here. You can change here the color. Let's give it a red color. You can change the size. Let's give it a size of 4. So these 4 millimeters will always refer to the size of your viewport, not of your entire map size. So it scales with the map scale. So if you click apply now, you can just double click and check how that works here. Well, that was actually not a red, that was really hardly visible. So that's how it looks now. Good. Then I mentioned there is a database and an attribute table. So that is what we can see by right-clicking on gauges. Then we can open the attribute table, and here you see now the station name and the station ID. So with that, we created our first shapefile, and just note that here the symbology that we defined now for visualizing the shapefile in this project is again an attribute of the project. So that is why now here we need to save the project again to also save our type of symbology.